Here's what I've got in my tray so far. This is a quinacridone purple. This is dioxazine purple. So it's a pretty strong purple, but you can still use it. And I have my 4 greens. I think that's probably enough to just get started on painting some botanicals. So let's start. Usually the way I like to paint is starting from the growth, from the stem, and then building from there. So I'm going to make, for the first one, I'm just going to use this Cascade green that I have here. And I can always grab more green, of course, if I want to be more concentrated, but I'm going to go a little, kind of try to just be a little more pale. So I'm going to start with a stem that's going to start at this midway point here. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to make a sort of a thicker line as I go up. It's kind of a thicker line. And then I'm just going to kind of curve it and make it thinner. So there it is. If you could see that, I hope I can make it a little bit longer as I go up. And I'm just curving it a little bit. And then at this time, while it's still wet, I'm going to drop some color, a different green. This is the green apatite. I'm just going to drop some of that color into the stem just to give it some more, just dimension. And then I could bring it down and make it thicker as I go. So it's just basically a little curved line. And I think it's going to be kind of like dandy. I don't know what these are. They're kind of like, if I'm looking at that botanical illustration I sent you, and I'm going to try not to be exactly like that, but I like the idea. And if I look at the flowers, if I look at the picture, I'd have to open up the picture to look at it, but I see they're like a little bluish green, kind of mostly white with a little yellow flower. So I'm going to try to kind of do a very loose interpretation of that particular flower, and just for fun, just to see if this will, just to have fun. So now I see that the little green, I'm looking at the stem. And so what I need to do now is build from here. This is basically the very top, where the top of the flower would be. And so right here is where I'm going to right here, I'm going to do I'm going to take just going to pull out some of that color, and I'm just going to make little leaf sprouts or whatever these are, just kind of like little curved sort of leaf sprouts or little small leaves at the bottom of this. And then about right here, I'm going to do some more of those, but I'm going to just bring them down, just little lines. And I'm just using the paint that's kind of in my tray, like this, and maybe like this. And that's it for that. And I could make a little bit wider, maybe right there. And a little, and this is a stylized version of what that picture has. So, just kind of play, these are like little delicate leaves. And there, like that, making them a little wider like that. So there's that. I haven't started the flowery part yet. And I think I'm just going to build the growth, the stem. So now I see that I need to kind of build a starburst and I'll do it from right about here. So in this little area here is where I'm going to start the shape. And I'm just going to do this on right here, and then maybe on this side, just starting at this, right at the center point. These are like little stems. I'm going to just do the same thing here. I'm just going to bring this around like that. So basically, there is the foundation. Now I'm going to put a little purple, just a touch of purple right in this part where it's still wet to give it some depth. And I can do the same thing, put that little bit of that dioxazine purple, just a touch. If you go too much, then it will be too dark, but just enough to kind of tone that a little bit. So now I see that I'm going to rinse my brush out, kind of clean off. There's a lot of green on there, which is nice. I don't want to waste that green. Now I see some little places now where these little flowers need to happen. So I'm going to basically do the same thing that I did right here. I'm going to do it on all of these little ends here. It looks like they're just little tiny little stems are going to grow out of here. So I'm going to just make maybe make, there's like 5 little stem or kind of areas where the flower is going to come out, or the little flowers. And then I'm just going to do little tiny, just small little delicate leaves right here. like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm just going to build from the end here, making 5, or I can do 4 or 5, but they're kind of like coming out very similarly to this one. I'm going to do that on all of these. This is just trying something for the first time today, just to see how, just why not try something different. So these are the little flowery shapes. Now I'm going to keep my greens going here. I'm just going to make some little leaves that come out here. Now I'm going to do, I've got the greens going and I'm not worried if it's dry or not. I'm going to do a little bit of blue that I happen to have in my palette already. It's ultramarine blue, I think. Just a little bit. I'm going to put it right there. Just a little, very light. I don't want to go too dark. I got to get that green out because it's looking like a turquoise. There we go. There's that blue I'm looking for. So now I'm just going to make little, and this time I'm just going to make little dots, kind of like, and very light, kind of outside, just little kind of a little sort of splotchy, flowery kind of petal, I don't know, flower blooms, but I'm not trying to draw each one. I'm just kind of dotting it around. You can see how I'm just taking that brush and just kind of pushing the color on. And I think that's really fun. I like that. I think that's like lots of fun, but I'm gonna also do it right here. There's no stem here, but I need to make something happen right in the middle, right there. There. So this is kind of just a very stylized, and I'm going to put a little bit of purple in there, just a little bit of this, maybe, I don't know where that purple was. There it is. Just going to take a little bit of color and just put some more in there, just a little bit like that. You know, I see that this little flower in the middle, I don't have a stem connecting it to it. So I'm going to go ahead and make one right here. There's going to be a little coming from right this little space here. I just thought I can just create a little stem, and now it's connected. So there's one little one, and that could be a fun one. I'm just going to finish that one off. That's the fun. That's just that little botanical, and whatever this is called, you could write down whatever this is called, but I don't know what kind of plant that is, so I'm just going to leave it. So the next one that'd be fun to do is maybe some greenery, just greenery by itself. And what I'm going to refer to is the greenery in that picture. If you have your picture, it's the bottom one, the one on the bottom right. And it's only greens, just green. So here's my tray, here's my color, still have the greens. And I may introduce another green, but I'm just going to go ahead and take this here and start from, I'm going to just start and I'm going to make a curve, just like I did with this one, but it's going to be a different, it's going to be this way, and it's going to go up like that. So just a little green curve and a little bit thicker at the bottom always looks best, more natural. So you can just kind of widen the bottom a little bit and to give it more body. And then you can add your color, your purple, just to darken it a little bit. I'm just going to add that purple to the green, and that is going to make it a little darker. That's as far as it will go right there. So these are very delicate, but they're just delicate, which is fun. Something a little different. We're taking very, not using as much watercolor as we would normally do in any of our other paintings. So on this one, I'm going to take my green, and now I'm going to build some, I'm going to make some stems. And I'll start at the top. This is where I'm going to just make some leaf shapes. And it's not going to look like the illustration, but I'm just going to make some leaf shapes using my brush. Just the shape of the brush is going to do this. So I'm just taking my brush and I'm kind of laying it down and then lifting it up. So I'm going to do this on, and I'm not going to connect with the stem exactly. I'm just going to kind of make little leaf shapes. If you can see that, just going to grab some more green and just kind of delicate little leaf shapes right here on the end of this plant, or this, just kind of growing them from the outside. And I'm just going to let the brush kind of handle the shape of it. So it might be rough on the edges, but that's okay. Then I'm going to just bring some little, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring a stem out here from here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just kind of make a leaf shape. And this brush is definitely different as far as it's got kind of giving me like a rough end, which I think is kind of fun. It's doing something that I have not used this brush in a long time. So it's kind of interesting trying to play with the brush. So let the brush make whatever your brush is doing, let it do the shape of your leaf, if that makes sense. And now I'm going to take make another little stem, and it's going to be coming out from this part here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just make little small leaves starting at the top and then just kind of working along the side. If I could, usually I like to turn my paper around if it's just to make it easier. Instead of twisting my hand, I can actually turn my paper around and then I can create those leaf shapes also like that. So I've got this little thing happening here, which I think is really pretty. Now I could add some purple right at the base of the leaves while they're still wet. If I wanted to kind of make them darker looking, and I can connect the leaves to the stem that way too. Just little delicate lines. And of course, those weren't dry, but that's all right, doesn't matter. Now I'm just going to connect. I'm going to just take that purple and keep working down the stem here. And then I'm going to just make a much larger one, kind of in that like the illustration. I'm going to make a very large. I'm going to just pull probably starting right here. I'm just going to do a nice stem right there. And I'll start the leaves, those little cute leaves again. Just at the top here, I'm just going to make a leaf. And they're going to get bigger as I go down the stem. They're going to become bigger as I come down here. So that's a much bigger, but probably wasn't meant to go that way. And you can also let your leaves overlap on the ones that were behind. You know, you can let them overlap with your other leaves that are there. There, and that's probably, I'm just going to go quickly. I don't want to go make it too laborious. And now I'm taking that purple and I'm just touching it into the center and letting that purple kind of create the dimension here, right in there. And I'm going to do the same with, going to grab some more green. Going to load up my tray with a little more green because I just seem to run out of it quickly. And now I'm going to just take the next one. I'm going to do another stem kind of coming up here like that. And then I'm going to build from there. And this time I'm going to turn my paper around because it's just easier. And I'll lay my brush down and kind of make a little leaf shape like this. And have your brush loaded and wet. Don't touch the, you want your leaf shape there like this. I'm not touching the stem yet. I'll do that in a minute. So I'm just going to kind of make these little, and I'm letting my brush do it, even though it's not the shape I really was hoping for, but it's okay. I'm going to take my purple color, and again, I'm going to connect the little bases of the leaves to the stem, and that's also going to create depth while it's still wet. So there we go. So now I'm turning it around so you can see that in its place. Then what I might do with this one is I'm just going to take that, bring that purple down all the way down to this part here, to the main stem. So back again one more time. I'm going to do one more leaf. This time I'm going to bring, or not the stem. I'm going to bring another stem up, and I'm just going to kind of curve it. That's probably as far as it needs to go. And I'll add a little purple to it this time right here, just adding purple while it's still wet. So it won't, so it just looks darker. And then I'm going to take my leaves and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to be bigger and bolder on these leaves. Going to press down and go a little bigger. And here a little bigger, like that. Now some of this just crossed over. That's okay. You want your leaves to overlap. That's what it does in nature. So, but I'm not, if you notice, I'm not touching the stem yet. The stem that's growing from, I'm just not going to touch it until the last minute here, or the last second. So I've got those little beginnings of those made, and now I'm going to take that purple color and bring and just connect them this way, right? They're still wet. While they're still wet, connecting those. And if they don't connect and just put it through, I mean, if it doesn't blend, that means it's too dry, and just make a line through it instead. So here I'll just put a little line, like that. This one, it dried, so there. So I've got a little line through that. And I think it just needs one more because it's just sort of asking for one more. So I'm going to do a smaller one, a shorter one actually, and just bring it from here. That one looks like a leaf instead of a stem. So what I just did is a big boo-boo, and I don't know if I can erase that, but I'm going to try. I'm going to show you if you ever want to erase something. I don't know if this is a staining green or not. We'll find out. But I'm taking a wet, clear water, the wet brush, and now I'm going to dab out what I just did. Yep, I erased it. I'll be darned. So it depends on the green, and it depends on the paper. This paper is a really good paper. This is 100% cotton. So if you were, sometimes you can erase, sometimes you can't. So don't worry if you can't. But here, I'm just going to do one more little, if it's dry enough, I'm just going to do a small, like a little stem going up. Like that. And I'll just add a little purple to it to make it darker, not too dark. Actually, I kind of went crazy on the purple there. So there I've got a little stem. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to get some leaves and make a little, I still want to make them big leaves though, if I can. And just kind of big, and I'm not going to let them touch the stem I just made. I'm just creating those leaves. That's probably good enough. And then I'm going to take that purple that I made, and I'm just connecting those leaves to the stem, and that puts it together. So that is one. And now I'm going to take a little more of that purple color and green, mix with the green, so it looks kind of brown. And I'm going to just take it up this whole entire length of the main stem to kind of give it some depth and light and dark. Let's see, I'm going to bring it up that main stem. And I can also join these other secondary stems here, just kind of join those to give it like kind of a more depth. I'm just going to go all the way up and then join these with, this is with that purple mixture, purple and green. So now that is much better. I'm also going to take this same, I'm going to widen, maybe just kind of emphasize these little stems a little bit more with my brush, just delicately. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go right down that shaft of that and just kind of give us some more depth. And also maybe some lines through the leaves. If you wanted to do that, you can create the veins throughout the leaves. Yeah, like that. And I think I'll do the same with this one. I need to make a line going up there and maybe one here, but I have to do really delicate because this is a very delicate little sketch here, or watercolor. Now I can also, while this is still wet down here, I can actually extend this a little bit to give it a little, just make it wider, kind of like that, just so it looks more natural. So I've got two now. Let me get the third, we'll do the third one. We'll do a flowery one, like let's do, looks like I don't know if it's a cornflower or what it is. I don't know, it's the second one if you're looking at your drawing, if you can. If you're looking at the illustration I sent, but if you don't have it, that's okay. It's the second one. It's a pink flower. It has a pink daisy-like, very delicate little leaves, and I think it'd be fun to work on that one. So we'll do the flower part of it first, and then we'll work on the leaves. And then I'm going to keep using this brush to see what happens because I haven't used this in so long. And I'm going to just go ahead and load up some pink color or some pinks. And I might have to change my water already because I've got a lot of green in my water. So I'm going to keep my green water. That's getting pretty green. And I'm going to change, I've got to clear for my pinks and anything that's not green. I'm going to go ahead and use a fresh thing because it's probably a little easier. So I'm going to mix up some magenta and I'm going to use this side of the tray. So I've got this beautiful magenta color. It's quinacridone magenta, one of my favorite colors because it just can be made into so many things. And I'm going to put a little of my opera color, which is a very bright pink. I'll just put that there. And that's all I'll put there for now. Maybe a little of the quinacridone violet or purple there. Those three. So I've got three colors to work with for that flower. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to do probably the center, I guess the center first. I'm going to make a This probably use some orange color here, just a little orange, warm yellow orange. It's kind of a, I don't know what color that is. It's a, it's in, I wish I knew. I should have labeled that, but it is a pretty color. It's this color. It's kind of a gamboge. I think it's gamboge. So it's really a very warm, yellow. And I'm going to just make a little sort of I'll put it right there. That's where the flower is going to be, right there. Just going to make a little sort of a squished oval, kind of I don't know, it's like a football shape more like. And I could change it, make it larger, but I'm just there like that. It's kind of just a rounded, flattened, round, oval shape, but just sort of a blotch kind of right in the middle. That's going to be the center of the flower. Now it's pretty wet, which what's going to happen is when I use the pinks, that yellow is going to go into the pink, which is going to be pretty. So I'm going to take my pink colors, I've cleaned my brush out, and I'm going to take those pinks and I'm going to make some leaves, and I'm going to make petals basically. And these petals are going to just come out from this area and they're going to go, so I'll start here and I'll just make some petals and kind of loosey-goosey, nothing starting, and look how beautiful that's happening, that yellow that's just kind of coming out, and it's just so pretty. Using one stroke of the brush, just laying the brush down flat on itself, kind of like there, and creating these petals based on, and I'm touching the inside of the inside of that flower so that that yellow spreads out. And we're going to do this just kind of to take it throughout the whole just around this shape. Now it's not going to look exactly like the botanical that we're referring to, which is fine. Bring that shape out and kind of make just make some petals. And you don't, they can touch each other, they can overlap like this one. I'm just going to have kind of come out like this and just make a flower shape. However, the petals are not perfect. They're all just kind of beautiful pink shapes that are kind of like oblong, like that. And that's all I'm going to do on that one. Now, I'm going to add some of this quinacridone purple right at the base. I'm just going to touch these. I love the yellow, but I wanted to kind of make it a little darker. I might even just go right inside and just kind of a loose flower. Now that's the flower. Now this, we need a little time to dry, but let's keep it loose. We won't have to worry about it. You notice here, this purple just kind of overtook that beautiful yellow. So I'm going to take my brush, pull out most of the color here, and I'm going to dry it. I want that brush to be dry, and I'm going to pull up some of that purple. That just was too much. So I'm pulling that out of there. So you can erase, and I'm just kind of lifting it. So it's almost like pulling it almost all the way off. And now I'm going to go put that yellow back because I love that yellow. I think it's such a beautiful yellow. And I'm able to just reintroduce that yellow now. And there it is. So I hope you can see that. You can see the yellow there. So that is my first layer on that. I'm going to leave that alone. And now I'm going to start doing the stem. So the stem, back to the greens, going back to my greens. And I'm going to pull some, maybe some more Cascade green. I don't know, because just doing any green would be great. And I'm going to bring down, I'm going to start my stem kind of maybe right here, but I could go through the flower because these are transparent flowers. They're transparent in the sense that the petals are. So I'm going to go ahead and just start it as if I'm just going to bring it down like this and kind of like here. That's about as far as I'm going to go on this one. Maybe, but see, I went through the petal, but that's okay because they are translucent, and I'll just be more dark as I go outside the petal. I'm just going to reinforce that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of that purple color just to darken, just to give it a little, make it darker. Here, like that. And then this little flower has some little interesting little kind of, they're not really leaves, they're small leaves, let's just say. So I'm going to start the leaves. I'm going to kind of just bring up one like this, and then kind of little small, delicate leaves kind of going off the plant. Now, this is something, you can just kind of, these are just very small leaves, and I think I'll just come back and thicken them a little bit after I make the initial drawing of them. So I'm just going to go up here, making like a little like this, and then just kind of branching them off. It's kind of like doing a tree branch. And then I'm just going to do a little small one here and then have it go off. Now, there it is. That's the leaf. But what I want to do now is make them a little and reinforce them a little bit, give them a little more thickness and some depth. So I'm going to go back down starting at this part here, right where the petal ends. And I'm going to just come down the main stem, just going over what I just did, not making it much thicker. I'm just doing another layer. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to make it a little, but I'm making it a little thicker right at the base here, just widening that a little bit. And then bringing that just a little thicker for that center part, like that. And then if you wanted to, you could create like just slight thickness here, but not too much, just a little bit, just to build a little bit from there, to give it more of that botanical illustration look. And I'm thickening the base a little bit. I'm just kind of going back over my first my first sketch, and I'm just doing this around the base of this. And just kind of, you can even be free, you don't have to be worrying about it being perfect at all, please. No perfection here. Just kind of the essence of the plant. So there it is, but I'm gonna darken that with some purple, right in that. Some of this needs to be darker, right in there. And that's the purple green mix. So kind of mix it with your green, and then you're getting a kind of a nice blend of dark, but it won't look just like a stark purple. And I'm going to go up the main stem again, just to give it another layer. And then I'm going to stop right at the base of that flower. But you can see the little bit of that stem coming through. Now I'm going to take now that this is dry enough, I hope it is, I'm going to just take the same purple. Well, it's not dry. Oh, well. But I'm going to kind of make some dark areas. Yeah, it's just too, I needed to dry that, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm leaving it. I'm going to let it be. And so I've got a little purple mixed with my pinks, and I'm just going to bring some little veins going through these leaves or petals. Now, some of it's still wet, so it's kind of just blending, and some of it's dry. So I'm getting some nice line work. So you can go ahead and just do it. Even if it's wet, it's still going to have some sharp areas and then some dull areas, or like blended areas. But try to have some control. Get some really thin lines if you can, like little thin lines through your flower petals. And then you can also take your stem and just kind of made it look so you can kind of see it a little bit. But I'm going to let that dry and go to the next one and then build from there. The same thing, because I need to go back in with my eraser, as we call it. I'm going to go back and pull some of this. It was too much. And I'm going to pull that out so that it softens that. And then I'll come back to it later. So there's that. So number 3, we got number 3 done. So let's do some more, let's just do some nice soft leaves. We could do another flower. I've got to make room. Let's see, I'll do something starting here, I think. So maybe another flower would be fun. Remember last week we did the beautiful butterfly on the cornflower, or whatever that thing is. It's like they're just beautiful. So I'm going to do the top of the flower right here. So I'm going to make the same oval shape out of the same color, this gamboge color. And I'm going to make a kind of a dome right here. Just a little dome. It's like a little dome out of yellow right there. And with this one, all the leaves go downwards. And I think with this one on the illustration, I'm going to look at that again. And it's white. It's like white. So that would be an interesting thing to do white. Now, I don't like to do white unless I'm going to do a background. So I'm going to make this a blue, or I could make it any color I want. But maybe I I think maybe a yellow would be pretty. So some kind of or an orange. So we've got this nice yellow inside, and I'm going to do a transparent orange. And this color is pretty strong. So transparent pyrrole orange. It's pretty strong. So I'm going to try not to be too heavy-handed on it. Add lots of water, and I'm going to start making my petals. And they're all going to sort of droop downward instead of going up like this one. They're going to droop downwards. So we're going to just start. I'm going to just touching the inside of the dome, and I'm going to just make a petal that droops down. There's one, and then I'm going to bring maybe the second one. I'm going to do like a kind of a drooping down, and just drooping these down, and you can have them touch, overlap, however you want. You can do that. So I'm just doing these petals so they're not. There we go. One more, maybe just a little short one like that. Kind of like that. So this petals they're just drooping, which is good. We like that. So I'm going to add a little of this magenta, mixing up some of my magenta colors that I have in my tray and some of that yellow. And I'm going to touch right where the areas are still wet. I guess I'm going to have to add some more magenta. I'm going to just throw in a little magenta right at the base of these flowers, or the flower petals. And I'm going to maybe join some of these so they're not just so, I don't like a lot of that white around the dome. So there it is. I'm just going to leave that be. And if I wanted to add a little yellow maybe at the ends, some of that gamboge, it's same gamboge that's in the petal. I'm just going to drop those right at the tips of my petals while they're still wet. And they're not really spreading because I think the orange is a much stronger color. But I'm just going to let them, they'll dry. You'll see it when it dries. They'll dry nicely. I probably should have brought my heat gun out. So there's that. Now I'm going to do a stem, but this stem is going to be a lot thicker and a much more, not as delicate as the one we did before. This is going to be a thick stem. And I really would like to start it right in here, kind of a straight up and down, and it's going to end right here, but it's not going to be very long. So I'm going to take my greens. I could have done a stem that kind of curves because I really like to work with this paper. I don't want it to end down here. So I'm going to just do something a little different. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to curve it. Now I need a thicker brush. This brush, I've got a little tinier one here. I'll still work with this one. Let's just see how I work with one brush for a change. I keep changing brushes out, and it's kind of good to just try using one. So here I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to start my stem, and I have to think about where it's going. And if I wanted to kind of lay this way, because I want to be able to use the space I'm in. So because it's going to go off the page if I go down like this. So I'm going to kind of make it curve. So I'm going to start it like right here, but I don't want it to touch my petals. So I'm going to just bring myself to about right here. Then I'm going to just start kind of a big, thick, it's going to be a lot thicker stem. Like there we go. And these thick stems don't really curve as easily. So, and some of it's going in there, and that's okay. I'm just going to put some of that green here and there. And if it's going to go in the flower, and that's just fine. Here we are. So I've got the little stem happening. And with this one also, I'm just going to do a little kind of a part of the stem that's going to come off here while it's still wet. There, I've got a little piece here, and I'm going to do a little kind of a leaf, kind of a different leaf shape this time. So I'm going to just do maybe that only, and just leave it like that. And then I'm going to do kind of a thick, my leaf is going to be a big leaf. So I'm going to take it, I've got the center or the vein of the leaf right here. And I'm just going to kind of lean my brush into that and kind of finish it off. There it is, like that. I just pushed it in, and using that line that I had as a guide. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to take my brush, load it up with a different green, and I'm going to take this, using that as a pivoting point in there. I've got it there. So I've got basically my two different tones, but I use this little center part as my pivot point, or the place that I started the brush stroke. And now I'm just going to take some purple color, and I'm going to just kind of make it a little stronger there. So I think I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to make a little shadow like that, just to give it a little, just some shadow. Going to take some more purple and do this and just kind of add a little bit more. Just, this is a thicker stem. And now I don't know if this is dry yet. I hope it is, but if it is, I'm going to take a little bit of my purple and I'm going to create those little pieces that make this flower so interesting. The little parts of the center part of the flower. And I'm going to take that same purple mixture and I'm going to just bring it out a little bit at the base and kind of, I'm just tapping that color in and it's spreading out because the petals are still wet, and that's good. If they're not wet, you can just kind of draw them out like this with your brush. So I think that one is lovely. Just going to leave that one alone for now. This one I can come back to now that I have some purple. I can kind of come back to this one. And this one just needs a little detail in the center. So in this one, I'm going to do those little shapes, except they're going to kind of go towards the center of the whatever that center part is on a flower. So I'm just kind of making those shapes kind of going, facing that, going inwards, all towards the center. And just bringing detail, and maybe darker right in this part here. And then I'm going to take that same purple and my pink combo, and I'm just going to reinforce a little bit around here, give it some depth so that it looks, you know, like it's a different part of that flower. And then I'm going to just bring out some detail right in these little petal parts, kind of pulling out some of that purpley pink mixture. So that is a little more detailed there. So the flowers are starting to look like they should be. That's fine the way it is. And then I think we've got 4. We've got 4. I was going to do 6. I hope we have time. We'll just do one more. Let's do a very loose, just leaves, very soft leaves using the greens you already have in your tray. And I'm going to try this little tiny brush this time because this is a number 6. So this one's the number 8. Okay. All right. I'm just going to use my little number 6 brush. And this time, I'm just going to do leaves only. I'm going to start without making a stem this time. This time it's leaves without the stem. And I'm going to do it somewhere in here. So I've got some room and I can just start right up here somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to make some leaves, and this time my leaves are going to start at right here. I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to make a leaf shape. And then I'm going to take, that's only half of the leaf. I'm going to take my brush and create the other half right there. So basically I'm doing a 2-part leaf. What that means is I make the shape of the leaf. I'm going to make that a little darker so you can see it. Let's see, get a little darker. Maybe I'll add some blue or something too. So what I did essentially is I made 1/2 of the leaf. So it's basically breaking it down into a half. So I've got 1/2, and I'm just going to show you, I made the half here by just pressing my brush down and then lifting up my brush a little bit as I pick it up. And I'm just kind of accentuating that so you can see. And then the second half, make it with a lighter green or a different green. And I'm going to take it, and I started at the same place, but I'm going to go on the outside of what I just painted and join those two together. So that kind of gives us a very loose leaf. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take my my Cascade green, and I'm going to start one side of the leaf. I'm going to just do it starting here, and I'm going to just kind of bring my brush, and I'm going to press it down, and then I'm just going to kind of lift it up here. And then I'm going to take, that could be a leaf by itself, but let's do a 2-part leaf. Now I've got my more yellowish green. It's more of a yellow green. And I'm going to bring this, starting this leaf, I'm going to take it starting at the same place, but I'm going to bring it around and kind of make another half. Basically, it's going to have another half, another dimension there, like that. So I'm using different colors so you can kind of see that how I join the leaves. You can do it with the same green, but I just did that so you can see the kind of the anatomy of these leaves, if that makes sense. Just like basically you're creating 2 halves to make a whole. So I'm going to take this other one and I'm going to do, this time I'm going to turn my paper around. Turn it a little bit to make this easier to do. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to make my little half. And then, there it goes. There's one half of it. And then the second one, I'm just going to bring it around and I'm just making it join. So you got that. So there, that I like better. It's looser because I'm kind of going more spontaneously. You know, if I go too slow and hesitate, it really shows. Like I could see that. I was doing that to show you, but I do see that's a much, this one here, I like the leaf a lot better. So I'm going to put some dark color in the base of it and let it just kind of move around up the shaft, not the shaft, but up the leaf shape. Just so you can see. Yeah, that's a little better and it's fun. I like that one. And they should just be loose leaf shapes. Here we've got these 3 leaves here. And this one is pretty small, but you know, I'm going to maybe make another set of small ones. Maybe one here. And then this time I'm not going to change the colors. I'm just going to show you how I just join them like that. And let's just do several leaves and we won't connect them yet. Like they don't have a stem yet. They're just going to be kind of loose and we don't know where it's going to go, but that's okay. This is going to make it more, little more free for all, more form, a free form. Now let's do a little overlapping here. I'm going to turn this, just for fun. I'm going to go behind, like this one's going to be, just going to overlap instead of, doesn't have to be, they can kind of overlap each other because in nature, that's what they do. So I'm going to do a little overlap here and up here, I'm going to do the same thing, just some leaves, some leaf shapes going, starting with the smaller ones, and then I'll go a little larger as I go down. And just practice making leaf shapes and try leaning your brush in different directions. Just play with the shapes. Now this one is a little wonky, so I'm going to try to fix it. There we go. But you just want the leaf to be more narrow, very narrow at both ends, basically. I mean, it's really kind of a, you know, and it could be shaped differently depending on, you know, not all leaves look exactly the same. So go ahead and practice different leaves. Now right here, I'll do another larger one if I can get a larger one. And here I'm just going to do it this side this time. So you could, there's the double, my double leaf. And now what I'll do is I'm going to join these, and it's kind of a weird way to do it because the stems really, this is not the way the pattern things grow, but it's going to be a challenge. I'm just going to put a little more color on that one. It's going to be a challenge to try to connect stems to connect these to something, but it doesn't have to be connected. I can just make leaves. So here I'm going to do little small ones and just kind of loose, make little leaf shapes and just practice them. They could be all over the place. And trying with your brush, whatever your brush will do, let it kind of do its thing. So I'm just going to let my brush do the work now. Almost looks like little eyes or something, doesn't it? So I'm going to make this change the direction of the leaves. Here's one here. And I'm going to change the directions of leaves here. Just kind of playing. Now, this is the challenge after you made these leaf shapes, is to try to make a connection here. So the way I'm going to try, this is just a challenge, is I'm going to take some dark green, and I've got a really dark green. I think that's a super dark green. I'm going to kind of like a shadow green. Yep, that's a shadow green. And I'm just going to start by kind of connecting these like this, just making connections with every leaf that I have. It's a strange one, but it's not the normal way, but it's all right. Because you can make your stems two parts growing, or you can just have them connecting like this. So however you want to do it, like this part, this one's going to drop down and connect here. This one's going to drop here and connect to that one. And these I'm not sure yet. I think maybe I'll just keep bringing this down and then connect these like so. So that's kind of how it's like a weird backwards exercise. But then this one, I'm going to connect it to that because it just But there I've got sort of a botanical thing happening. And I'm going to take my center, the one that's got the most head weight. I'm going to bring this right here. I'm just going to make some extra weight right in the middle, just to kind of make it right here. Yeah, like that, just a little extra weight to kind of make it look like it's a tree branch. And then I can come in, I can detail later or whatever. Now we have one more place and we've got just 4 minutes or so, but I still want to have you fill in your place, fill it in. So let's do a poppy shape, or this red, let's do something red or poppy-like, because I see a poppy flower in our little botanicals. We could do, or we could just do some little leaves. I really don't know which. Oh, I think it could be fun to, let's do a poppy or poppy color. So this is going to be red or an orangey red with some pink, whatever, you know, or magenta. Let's see. I'm going to grab some magenta. There we go. This is a very kind of a pretty warm color. I'll grab a little opera as well. And I'm just going to make a shape. Poppies are kind of, or this shape. I'm not going to do the dark part yet. I'm just going to do the outer part of the leaves. So I'm going to lay my brush down like that. You see, I kind of just laid it on its belly. I loaded my brush up with the color and I just laid it down. Now I'm going to just lay it down and kind of rotating my brush, just kind of rolling it basically. I don't want to have this perfect by any means. I'm rolling the brush and I'm going to do another roll here. I'm laying it down. I'm just going to roll it kind of. And maybe one more petal. I'm going to do one more petal. And this time I'm going to just kind of roll it this way. And maybe I'm going to bring this shape, but just kind of rolling the thing there. That's my flower. So using the side of your brush to get your shape is going to be really helpful. Now I'm going to do a little green to get this green going. And I really love the little, in this illustration, they have a little petal, like a partial bloom here. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to bring this, making my little, that stem right here. That's the main stem. And then I'm going to bring this curved, I'm going to curve it up and I'm going to drop it down about right there. Making a little green, just making the stem. And now I'm going to make a little, using that same red that I did with my flower, I'm going to make basically an oval shape. It's going to be the flower, but it's just not opened yet, like that. Just kind of an oval shape, like that, using the same color that my flower is, and that's that. Now I can start building the leaves and everything else. So just up here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to just kind of make a kind of like what I'm looking at is I'm seeing a very delicate kind of leaf sort of thing happening. And I'm just going to kind of try to follow that and basically just kind of drawing in that leaf there. And that's it on that one. And I have to wait a little bit. I probably don't have to wait too long. I'm going to go ahead and start the center. Now you can take a mix of purple, because the purple and the red are going to make a nice mixture. Some of that purple and red. Don't put any green in it yet, but purple and red mixed together is kind of going to make a really dark color. And I'm going to just try to grab some of the colors I have right here. And I'm going to just go in and create that center part of this flower. And I can go darker later, but I just want to kind of draw that in, sketch it in while my paint, and if it spreads around, that's fine. It might spread around, but I want to leave that little section a little bit lighter. So I'm kind of making a circle, semicircle, oval-y thing happening here for that center part. I'm going to leave it like that. That has to dry. Then I'm going to come back in and do some detail, but I have to wait for that little bit to dry. You could add a little more purple, or a little, if you have some moon glow or something like that, you can just drop it in to really make that part a little bit darker and more pronounced. So I'm dropping some moon glow, or you can use some neutral color, but that's that one. I have to let that dry for a little bit. So while I'm doing that, or while I'm letting that dry, or I'm just going to take this same color that I used for the stem or the middle, I'm just darkening this a lot more. And then I'm going to do the same on this one. It's unfortunately I kind of went too, I waited too long on this, but I would have liked to have made this darker while it was still wet. But I'm just going to glaze right over it, making it a little darker right there. And I can do this kind of right here. This is going to be like a little, maybe just some veins here, just trying something with this brush, seeing how fine I can make a line. I'm gonna let that's enough, I think. And I could come back with these with more detail or more, some shading. Let's say if we wanted our petals to be on this one to have more depth, we can just always come back and do some, like just some shading or like making shadows for some of your petals here and defining them a little bit. Maybe that. But this is pretty much essentially we're done. We just can start detailing if we want to. This one I'm going to just kind of put another layer on. I wanted it to be a little bit denser, but leaving some of the light colors there. And you can do this with all of your, just glaze over and create detail just by going with another layer of paint or watercolor. It doesn't have to be a lot darker, but just every layer that you do is going to create dimension and depth. So I'm just kind of just showing you a little bit of detailing on this flower, and you could keep doing that. The same with this one on the one that's orange. I can do that. I can create more detail on the petals just by adding another layer. And I think the poppy is fine by itself. I see that there's a little area if I wanted to add some red, I could. So I'm going to just do a little bit of red right in here where that's kind of white. I'm going to try, and I may ruin it, but that's okay. I don't mind. I'm just going to go in here and create like that. I don't know what I just did, but there we are. I'm just kind of drawing some lines, and I also covered up that white place that just didn't make sense. And I'm creating just some lines that kind of give the impression of the shape of the petal. After my watercolors dried, I felt like it needed some details. So I've got a micron pen, and I'm just kind of going around the leaf shapes very loosely, kind of giving a little more detail and more just finishing it off. So just going around these, all of the little shapes